amazing show on the Brian Kilmeade Show today. You can call us at 866-408-7669. And I want to talk more about my background in a little bit, but I want to get to our guest because Nicolee Ambrose has joined us in studio here. She is the National Committeewoman for the Maryland GOP, obviously in D.C. I'm familiar with Maryland politics, and it's a really great opportunity to have you here in New York.
It's awesome to be here. Normally, I'm not in New York. I'm in Baltimore, D.C., so it's awesome to be here, Griff. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm having fun, and hopefully I haven't broken the show yet. We're only a few minutes in, if even only a few seconds, so we're going to get right into it. But, you know, Nicolee, honestly, talk radio, and when I was in the 90s doing it, Rush, Sean, I was producing Ollie North's radio show, then Tony Snow. And talk radio was the incubator for thought,
yes,
for really issues,
yes,
for campaigns. Nobody got elected president, really on either party, without engaging in radio. And it's still to this day the absolute ground zero for where people can talk a little more at length rather than the 30-second sound bites we see on television about these issues. And that's what I want to get into this with you. But I want to, as I've been sort of talking about all morning, we were talking about on Fox and Friends, and give us a call, 866-408-7669, because you can ask me or, more importantly, Nicolee, any question you want about the upcoming race. It's going to be yet again a campaign about finances. Remember James Carville, it's the economy, stupid. It's still the case today. And there's a lot of other issues, to include the border, where you may have seen me reporting from extensively with my colleague Bill Malugin and others, in crime and so many other issues. But specifically when it comes to the economy and the latest Fox News poll, we found these results. Has Biden made the economy better or worse? 25% say better. It's only 1 in 4 Americans. 52% say worse. And we put together a montage of officials at the White House, including the president, the vice president, and the president's spokeswoman, talking about how great Bidenomics is, which stands in contrast to our polling numbers. But I think we've got that montage. If I can roll it, let's do it.
Bidenomics is working. When I took office, the pandemic was raging and our economy was reeling. Supply chains are broken, millions of people unemployed, hundreds of thousands of small businesses on the verge of closing after so many had already closed. Bidenomics is just another way of saying restoring the American dream.
Bidenomics is working. Last month, we created 187,000 new jobs. That means today, yeah, go ahead and clap.
Bidenomics is indeed working when we say that you look at the data, right? Cost is going down.
Folks, that's Bidenomics. It's about growing an economy.
Nicolee, is Bidenomics working for Marylanders?
Bidenomics is working for no one in the United States of America, or I'll even say our territories. It is not working for the world either, which often depends on America to lift it out of slow financial morass. What Republicans most need to do in 2024, because what do you hear from Republicans? Republicans say we most want to win. Okay, so the way we need to win is to focus on these issues which matter to every single day Americans. When I'm sitting down at dinner with my children, when I'm in line at the grocery store and my groceries in some cases cost 50% more than they did before COVID, and even and it was not abated by President Biden. We need to focus on the pocketbook issues, and whether it is inflation and mortgage rates being at 7.9%, whether it is our sieve of a border, which is dangerous to all of these migrants who are being sex trafficked, child trafficked, whatever. These are horrible situations for Americans to find themselves in. It is unsafe. Crime, immigration, most of all the economy. We have to focus on that instead of so many of the things you're seeing in the news these days.
Well, and you know, you talk about the numbers, by the way. Since Biden took office, consumer prices are up 16%, gas prices up over 60%, 61.8 to be exact. Home prices up 11.3%, credit card debt up almost 34%. But yet here you have the administration saying that Bidenomics is working for him, and we see this disconnect, Nicolee, between the Washington insiders and Main Street, a different reality for Americans out there.
It's definitely the story of the emperor's new clothes, right? Biden is out here saying things, and just because he says them does not make them true. And it is up to my party, the Republican Party, to get out there and demonstrate why all of those things are false. And we have to do it clearly, and we have to do it concisely. To me, when we look at 2024, whether we're looking at the presidency, the Senate, or the House, we must make the case on these issues that matter to everyday Americans. And in our case, we can't just say gas prices are high. No. We have to go beyond that and walk that conversation through to people. And how does a Republican being elected change that dynamic?
How dare you ask for solutions, Nicolee?
There we go.
And you talk about the election starting. It's going to kick off officially in my book. I say it starts with the first presidential debate, and we have one coming up in the middle of next week. Brett Baer, Martha McCallum will hold the first GOP presidential debate with a dozen or so candidates. Not sure whether or not the former President Trump is going to come. I certainly hope he does come to talk about solutions, and I understand you're going to be there as well.
I am. I'm very excited to be there. So August 23rd, we have the first debate of the Republican primary debate of the 2024 cycle. It is really hard for me to imagine that former President Donald Trump is going to forego 2 hours on TV where he could get his points across. So I'm looking forward to lots of excitement, and it's hard for me to imagine he won't be joining the stage.
Why though do you believe it's important he is there?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump has shown time and time again, he basically decimates his opponents, but he has to be there in person and he has to have the coverage.
He says he's the best debater.
Well, there you go. So if you say you are, show up and prove it. So, right, it's great to have all the people running show up. Furthermore, I mean, he's polling at 50%. So on the one hand, I understand advisors telling him, you're ahead, why show up? But once again, if that's your greatest skill set and you're great with media, show up and be there to answer the questions. Because certainly given all of his 91 criminal, indictments that we're looking at, he basically needs to be there to fight it off himself.
So this is why I am so excited that you are here. Nicolee Ambrose is the National Committeewoman from Maryland GOP with us. I'm Griff Jenkins, filling in for Brian Kilmeade. If you're just joining us, give us a call, 866-408-7669. Nicolee, the reason why I'm so excited that we're here having this conversation, because people have talked about whether or not President Trump is going to show up or not. But I think he should show up.
Absolutely.
Because he is currently running on a campaign of getting even. Yep. The prosecution or persecution, as he puts it, the payback that's coming. You have to elect me to fix the two-tier system of justice. And I don't disagree with him that that's a strong case he has to make. But he cannot get reelected without Republican suburban women.
Exactly.
And they have shown historically that they are not going to care at all about payback issues. And they are the front line of moms and wives that are dealing with the 16% prices we're talking about, the 61.8% gas prices. Like, they're the moms and wives of this nation in America. God love them, because they are the generals on the battlefield of inflation that American families are feeling. And I think this is, if Donald Trump doesn't show up, it's a missed opportunity to reach an audience that is not automatically there yet. But that's just me. What do you say?
I couldn't agree with you more. So obviously, shocker everyone, I am a suburban mom. And so I am a little passionate about this, that any and every Republican candidate has to explain their points. If you can't convince a swing voter, I'm not just going to say Republican women, I'm going to say all female voters. Republicans need to win back the suburbs. And where our party stands on the issues absolutely aligns with the needs of suburban women voters, right? We're better on the economy. We're better on crime. We're better on education. We are better on every single thing that matters to a suburban female voter. So we have to start, although this is for a Republican primary where only Republicans can vote in most states, it is important. It's critical. We use this marketing opportunity to explain these points too.
But you say we, Nicolee. Look, I'm talking about Donald Trump and Vivek Ramaswamy and Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and Tim Scott. What is the message that these Republicans need to be saying to Republican suburban women?
Right. Number one, we are going to bring you back that fantastic economy. So whether it's Donald Trump or any of the people running to have similar economic policies to him, they have to say that we have delivered this to you before. We will do it again. We will get government overreach out of your way so you and your families can be prosperous, so you can not only afford groceries, but afford that vacation once a year. And guess what? You can move because your mortgage rate should not be 7.9% with an extra $800 a month in borrowing costs. These are things that make people's life difficult and costly, right? So economic, number one. Number two, we are seeing any parent understands what a disaster COVID was for our children's education. Republicans by far have the best message on that, and we have to sing it all day long. We are for education choice. We are for children being in the classroom. We are for focusing on the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic. I do not need my kindergarten lectured about what gender they are when I need them to learn the alphabet. There is only so much time into today. Focus on the basics, please. So these are things that Donald Trump and every single other Republican candidate has to stress, has to focus on. We can't get bogged down in what certain media outlets want us to talk about all the time, which is, how many court cases we have in how many states. No, because guess what? That doesn't do a thing for my everyday life.
Right. Well, and look, Donald Trump's going to be part of the conversation on that debate stage, whether he's there or not.
Absolutely.
But
which is why he should show up.
Right.
Exactly.
And for him to miss out, to engage, you really deprive voters, not just suburban women, but all voters and likely GOP voters, the opportunity to see what would be different than the Donald Trump first term in the second one, because our set of issues and our problems are a little bit different. All right, we've got Nicolee Ambrose in with us. I'm Griff Jenkins on the Brian Kilmeade Show. Give us a call. I promise we'll take phone calls with Nicolee. Ask her anything. My question for the listeners is, what would be the question you ask Republicans on that debate stage? What's your question? 866-408-7669. Griff Jenkins in for the great Brian Kilmeade. We'll be right back.
Learning something new every day on the Brian Kilmeade Show. A talk show that's real. This is the Brian Kilmeade Show.
That's the Dire Straits playing just for Brian Kilmeade because he's literally that huge of a massive star. I love it. And Eric with awesome bumping music. I love the Dire Straits. Are you a fan, Nicolee, of the Dire Straits?
There are better groups. I'm sorry.
I know.
Everyone can fight me
and
over this.
When I used to produce radio back in the day, I used to make fun of hosts that would talk about the bump music. And now that I'm sitting in the chair all these years later, it's like I want to talk about the bump music. It's like I am literally violating my own rules. I love it, and that's why it's such a huge honor to be in on the Brian Kilmeade Show. I'm Griff Jenkins, your humble correspondent for Fox News from D.C., sitting in for Brian on this Friday with Nicolee Ambrose, the Maryland National Assembly woman, sitting in with us. You got a second for a call? We got some great calls coming in at 866-408-7669. Let's go to Brian in Illinois. Hey, Brian, happy Friday.
Hey, this is Brian. Brian's Rule. The thing I'd like to ask the candidates at the debate coming up is, what are they going to do about, or does anybody even address the elite agendas? The BRIC, the digital currency that everybody wants. What are they going to do about, things that, I know everybody talks about the climate change, but normal people don't care about the agendas. They're worried about, being an American, the Jason Aldean, don't do this in a small town, but the big cities are getting away with it.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Brian. You sound like you might be talking about the Richmond north of Richmond that Oliver Anthony is singing about in that new country song.
Right.
That's a great question. That's a great question. Actually, Nicolee, you want to answer Brian's question?
I think this is why Republicans, when we do well, this is what makes us do well, right? When we talk about issues that appeal to everyday Americans, whether you're out there on the construction site or you're, the mom working in a grocery store, whatever it is, we win when we talk to people about these basic issues, everyday issues that affect your everyday life. So, we're looking at 8 candidates making this debate stage. There's still a chance, apparently, that Suarez from Miami could qualify. We could be up to 9 who qualify on this debate stage. But I absolutely say, right now, speaking of money, the money is on the sidelines, right? A lot of people haven't come forth, opened their wallets yet to donate to some of these different candidates running for president. So I think this debate is going to be huge for people making their individual cases to voters, and voters being impressed, and big donors, from everyone from the little guy to the big guy, being impressed and saying, okay, this is my guy or my gal. I'm not only giving you my money, but I'm giving you my time. And, go America. Let's have a Republican win the presidency in 2024.
And Brian, thank you for calling in. If you're still listening, have a great weekend, because, Brian gave me an idea, and that is they should have Oliver Anthony, that sang that song, Richmond, North of Richmond, come to the debate stage and ask Brian's question, which is, what are you going to do about the elite agenda that everyone's talking about? Because it's not, as he points out, what real Americans care about. Right. I got to tell you, Nicolee, as a father of 2 daughters that are now 21 and 17, I can remember in my case, you work 7 days a week. Some of those days, if not all those days, are 12 hours a day. Yeah. And you can't pay the bills when that month is over. Yep. And you're frustrated. The sense of hopelessness that so many have felt, it's just unbelievable. That is what it's at. Nicolee Ambrose, great. Can't wait to see you at the debates. And it's going to be exciting. We'll have you back on the Brian Kilmeade Show. Griff Jenkins filling in. We'll be back.
A radio show like no other. It's Brian Kilmeade.
First of all, Rand Paul shouldn't even be on this stage, but we will be respected outside of this country. We are not respected now.
Do we want someone with that kind of character, that kind of careless language to be negotiating with Putin? Do we want someone like that to be negotiating with Iran? I think really there's a sophomore quality that is entertaining about Mr. Trump, but I am worried. His response, his visceral response to attack people on their appearance, that happened in junior high. Are we not way above that?
I never attacked him on his look, and believe me, there's plenty of subject matter right there.
That is the Wayback Machine, going back to 2015, the GOP debate, when then candidate Donald Trump, who would eventually be president, giving Rand Paul just a taste of how strong of a debater he is in real time, off the cuff. And who knows whether or not we will get to see that next week. I'm Griff Jenkins, your humble correspondent from D.C., filling in for the great Brian Kilmeade on the Brian Kilmeade Show. Give us a call at 866-408-7669. I've got Nicolee Ambrose, the National Committeewoman from Maryland GOP, in studio with us here in New York. Nicolee, let's take another call because we've got Matt from the great affiliate WTFK with us talking about this debate. And Matt, thanks for joining us. You think Trump should show up for the debate. Why?
Hello, Griff. This is WTKF, the talk station in Morehead City, North Carolina.
Excellent.
Okay, anyway, I agree with you and Allison and the whole show. I believe that Trump should debate because he's so good at it. I mean, and also on Wednesday, I believe it was Fox News, listed all the lies that Biden has said since the 1980s till current. What's your opinion, sir?
Well, listen, Matt, thank you for the call, and I'm going to let Nicolee weigh in, but you raised such a good point, and that is this is going to be a missed opportunity, I think, for the former president to not show those skills because people like Matt and everyone across America remembers. And if anybody can rattle off the past failures of Joe Biden, it's going to be a guy like Donald Trump. We've seen him do it time and time again. We actually get it in his Truth Social, but yet, I'm not sure we're going to see whether or not guys like Vivek Ramaswamy, who seems to be rising in a major way, and Ron DeSantis and others, they're going to get a shot at doing it too, but it's not going to be the same if Donald Trump's not there.
You're so right, Griff. So if people are going to attack you, be there to defend yourself, right? And make the case for why you're fantastic. I have to set the stage here for a second because I had the honor of being at that first presidential debate at 2015, and the excitement is just electrifying in the room, right? It's just exciting. This is one of these unique things about America, right? Where it actually really matters. And based on what people say, you can actually decide to help them. You can actually decide to go out there and spend the next year and a half of your life working for them, volunteering for them, helping them become the next president of the United States. So it was amazing back in 2015, 2016. And it will be like that again because we're in that similar dynamic where the Republican Party has to choose our nominee. So I cannot agree enough with Matt because you got to be there to defend yourself. So if you are former President Trump, you should be at this first Republican debate of this cycle.
Yes, and Matt, thank you for that great call. And Nicolee, you really jogged my memory here because you are at that first debate, and it occurs to me that was people were not seeing Donald Trump as even the likely nominee, let alone the front runner that he is now. Take us back to, did you have any indication when you saw that first debate and we saw the unbridled Donald Trump, the businessman, the TV celebrity now running for president, did you have any indication, any thought, truth told here, that he would go on to be the nominee based on what you saw in that first debate?
He has always been an outstanding debater. The debate was where he kind of proved he could take on lifelong politicians or people who had, made their more recent careers of political service, certainly. You have to realize before that, right, our thought was, we remembered the escalator ride here in New York City. We remembered things that had been a bit more staged, more controlled. But the debate is, politics in the flesh, and it can get brutal out there. And President Trump certainly dominated when he was just Mr. Trump back in those days. But what I'll also say about that is, sometimes his sense of humor in person is even more shocking than than on the TV screen. Sure. So, I'll never forget being at a dinner where he spoke right before he announced he was running for president. And I think his topic du jour for the start of his whole speech was Neil Diamond. And he can just be eviscerating to someone who's in his crosshairs, shall we say. But the debate stage is just, once again, that beautiful American experiment, like fully on display. Yeah. And folks, tune in. It's going to be fantastic.
It's funny. You talk about the Donald Trump and just sort of the unique nature. And I wasn't going to tell this story, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that is back in 2012. I got time for this. Griff Jenkins, by the way, on the Brian Kilmeade show, filling in for the great Brian Kilmeade. Give us a call at 866-408-7669. Talking to Nicolee Ambrose, the National Committeewoman from the Maryland GOP. Nicolee, so my story with Donald Trump goes like this. In 2012, Governor Mitt Romney was the nominee, and I was a correspondent, largely reporting for Greta Van Sustren's program On the Record. Yeah. And if you remember the Tampa RNC convention back in 2012, a Category 1 hurricane hit the Saturday before it began on Monday, and Greta had an exclusive interview. Did I tell you the story, Allison? You're going to like this. So Greta had an exclusive interview with Donald Trump on Saturday night because the Florida GOP had given him the Man of the Year award. So it's at the Ritz-Carlton in St. Pete, and it was going to be a big deal. Greta couldn't get in because flights were shut down because this storm turned into a sort of unsurprising Cat 1. It wasn't terrible, but it was a Cat 1 hurricane, and it was pounding on Saturday night. And so Greta said, Griff, it's your lucky night. You get to interview Donald Trump. Like, okay, great. So here we go. So now I got a 2-camera set up, and we're set up, if you can visualize this because we're on radio here, you've got one room where the $1,000 plate people get to take a picture, VIP room to meet Trump, go through a holding room where I'm set up for this quick interview, then the grand ballroom where he'll be given this award. Well, the storm caused everyone to be running late. The water's gushing in the hotel. It's chaos. Everything's running late. And Donald Trump's assistant, Michael Cohen, you may remember, was there, and he says, okay, Mr. Trump says, this can't happen. Interview's off. Don't have time. And I said, okay, hold on. So I called Greta, and she's like, no, we've got to have something. We've already promoted exclusive interview for Monday night. You got to pull this through. So I talked to Michael Cohen. I said, listen, just let me, one question. That's it. We just can't come up empty-handed because it'll be Greta and Donald Trump's reputation if we don't deliver on this interview we've promised. Well, here we are, an hour late. Mr. Trump does what Mr. Trump wants to do. He walks in and says, what is this? Michael, I told you this is off. This isn't happening. And I said, Mr. Trump, please, just 2 questions. We want to talk about your award for Greta. She thinks you're so great. I think you're great. Stroke his ego a little bit. He's like, okay, 1 question. Let's go. Hurry up. So I'm panicking. At this point, I'm freaking out because I'm like, this guy's going to give me a 2-second answer, get up and walk out. And I said, okay, Mr. Trump, thanks. We got the cameras rolling. We'll be very quick. Here we go. Mr. Trump, you're getting a Man of Year award tonight, and I want to talk about that. But quickly, what is it, your sense that maybe Governor Romney, the nominee, doesn't fully understand the threat that China poses? Because you talk a lot about it. He said, you're right. You're absolutely right. Well, that's right. 25 minutes later, Michael Cohen's like, get up. This interview's over. You got to go. And he's saying, what was your name again? Griff Jenkins. Point of the story. My cameraman now has got to go get video of him getting this award. Sure. He walks into that ballroom. And these people have been there for hours in a Category 1 hurricane, paying $5,000 dinner. He walks in, doesn't even sit down at the table where they're trying to usher him. He walks right up on stage, grabs a microphone and says, hello, I know we're supposed to have a dinner and all this formatics, but hey, listen, Nicolee, it's great to see you. Griff Jenkins, it's great to see whoever, the people that, the Florida GOP luminaries, and says, let me just say some words and then we'll all get the hell out of here. Let me just tell you, I was just interviewed by the finest, greatest journalist I've ever met. And let me tell you, I hate 99.9 members of the media because they're corrupt and they're foul and they're dishonest criminals. And he goes on, he said, because this reporter asked me, Mr. Trump, do you think China is being underestimated? And he rails on Romney, rails on the media, rails on China, tells the person to come up, give him the award. He's in and out, 20 minutes tops, and out of the door he goes. And they were standing room only, applause, ovation for 20 minutes. And when he walked out, I told Phil Selly, my cameraman, I said, wow, that was something. And Phil Selly said, it's a shame that guy's not running for president, because if that guy were running for president, he would get elected with how authentic and how genuine and how off the cuff he is, and leaving a room full of people that have been waiting for hours in a Category 1 storm, paying $5,000, and they couldn't get enough. That is why Donald Trump should be on that debate stage, to remind people that is what he brings that other candidates don't bring.
Well, what you also just touched on is the whole point of what Democrats are trying to do to throw Republicans off in 2024. If Donald Trump, if Ron DeSantis, if Vivek, if everyone who's running for president talks about those issues which matter to Americans, Republicans win hands down across the board. Every single race people can vote on. But when we get thrown off and diverted talking about things that don't matter to our everyday lives, guess what? Then Republicans don't exactly do well at the ballot box.
Griff Jenkins filling in for the Brian Kilmeade Show. It's 1-866-408-7669. Talking to Nicolee Ambrose about this. You talk about the authenticity of Donald Trump. Vivek Ramaswamy. Yeah. The Ramaswamy Revolution, as I mentioned in reporting for Fox and Friends yesterday morning, he's catching lightning in a bottle a little bit. He was rapping Eminem at the Iowa State Fair. Now it looks like Ron DeSantis' super PAC put his debate prep, bullet points out there for the whole world to see. And part of it is attack Vivek Ramaswamy, attack Vivek. So could Vivek, if Donald Trump doesn't come, could he steal that stage? Do you think there's something happening here?
So Vivek is really charming. His wife's charming. They travel together. They're really lovely people. And, he listens. He's humble. He's just comes across as a really nice guy, although obviously he's insanely successful. Originally we kind of looked at this and we said, okay, none of us have ever heard of him in politics. Where'd he come from? Okay. He's flying his jet around. Maybe he's trying to run for the Ohio Senate seat. But this is going very, very well for him right now, right? His minimum is probably making a play for the Ohio Senate seat. He's at least going for VP, if not higher at this point. So, he's doing what you would tell any candidate to do, right? Be personable, get out there, listen, say things that matter to people. So he's doing great. As for DeSantis's team, I do not know why they put that ridiculous memo out publicly. Not smart. If they did it literally intentionally, you have to wonder, do they think they're warming people up to these concepts? Right. Because why else would you do it? It's just
and there's
bizarre.
these rules between a super PAC can't directly coordinate with the candidates. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? One thing is for sure, you're going to have a front row seat. Nicolee Ambrose, National Committeewoman for the Maryland GOP, joining us in the studio. I kept you far too long, but that was so much fun. Nicolee, have a great weekend. Enjoy New York. Thanks for being here. Can't wait to hear what you have to say after the debate is over. Thanks for being here. I got to take a break. Griff Jenkins filling in for the great Brian Kilmeade on the Brian Kilmeade Show, 866-408-7669. Won't you give us a call?
Diving deep into today's top story.